Welcome to Hobbs Loves Comics. My name is Hobbs, and today I just want to be talking about some really nerdy stuff. That's what I'm gonna do on this channel, just talk about all the really nerdy stuff I like. The specific focus of today's video is the new trailer for the Batman Knightfall animated trilogy that is coming out on HBO Max sometime soon. Um, so I saw the trailer yesterday, and then I watched it again today and it looks really good. I do definitely have some concerns, but I think that this could be shaking out to be one of the best Batman animated movies ever. I mean, just some background if you don't know what the Knightfall story is. Knightfall was a storyline written by DC Comics in the 1990s to kind of capitalize off of the momentum of stuff like the death of Superman, right? So back in the 90s, DC kind of like weren't selling very many comics. It was like not a lot of people were buying stuff like Superman and Batman anymore. Marvel was kind of like frying DC when it came to comic sales, right? A lot more people were tuning into read the weekly adventures of like Peter Parker rather than Clark Kent. So DC made like probably one of the ballsiest moves in comics and were like, hey, what if we just like offed Superman? So they went ahead and killed Superman, and lo and behold, it's still, to my knowledge, I mean, X-Men #1 is the most, like the highest selling comic, but to my knowledge, I think Death of Superman is still like the highest selling DC comic of all time. Like, people in the real life were holding like funerals and stuff for Superman. Like he was being mourned on the news, like he was a real person. That's how insane it was back in the 90s. So basically after that, DC, Marvel, really everybody saw how popular that like these cash grab like big moments could be. And they're still doing that now, but the difference back then is was it was actually written well. So right? They were like, what if we did the same thing but with Batman? But like they weren't going to kill off Batman, so instead they decided to introduce Bane. Now, if you've heard of Batman, you've probably heard of Bane. You might not be familiar with him, but you've probably heard of him. I mean, he's one of the most popular Batman villains, from stuff like his portrayal by Tom Hardy in The Dark Knight Rises. He was included in a lot of Batman media, like Batman the Animated Series, right? The Batman 2004, which, by the way, still my favorite episode of that show, the one with Bane. But it introduced Bane, and Bane's thing was he was stronger, bigger, faster, smarter than Batman. He was the toughest guy Batman had ever faced. And Bane has a plan. He like blows up Arkham, lets all the inmates out, and Batman, after like weeks of barely any sleep, having to deal with all these escaped Arkham convicts, Bane breaks into his house and breaks his back. And then Jean Paul Valley, who was Azrael at the time, takes up the mantle of Batman. So I think it's best that this is getting adapted into three parts. I mean, we already saw stuff like the Long Halloween two-parter, but there are three parts to Knightfall. The first arc, which is Knightfall itself, with Bane, where he breaks Batman's back, and then John Paul Valley takes up the mantle. Then the second arc, which doesn't really feature Bane like at all. I'll talk more about that later. But the second arc is called Knight's Quest, and it's about Jean Paul Valley with as his time as Batman, which features some really dope villains like Tallyman, those two cowboy brothers, right? They tried to like create new villains for Jean Paul Valley's Batman specifically, so he wasn't just fighting, the same old Bat rogues. Right? But eventually Jean Paul Valley takes it too far and ends up like killing somebody. And Tim Drake Robin is like, yeah, no, this is too far. So eventually, the third arc, Night's End, Bruce Wayne, after healing from his broken back, goes to Lady Shiva and trains with her until can become the Batman again. Then he like gives John Paul Valley a nice he gives John Paul Valley a big whooping. John Paul Valley like retires as Batman, and then Bruce gives the mantle to Dick Grayson for a brief time, and Dick Grayson becomes Batman with Tim Drake as his Robin. But eventually, Batman comes back with an all new black Batman suit that looks very much like the Tim Burton one and becomes Batman again. And this leads into stories like No Man's Land and stuff like that. But some history about me. Batman Nightfall was the first Batman comic I ever read. So like, yeah, the first Batman story I ever read, like Batman gets his freaking back broken, and then some new like loser is Batman. Because my first real exposure to Batman was like the 1960s Batman show, and then like BTAS and like New Batman Adventures, Justice League, JLU, right? So eventually, I mean, I was like, I want to get into reading Batman comics. I mean, I love Batman. He's like my favorite superhero. I want to read some comic books. So I went to the bookstore and they had all three Batman Nightfall books. And I was like, oh, I really love that episode of, the Batman 2004 with Bane. I should read these books. They're about Bane, right? And I read them, and that's kind of what made me fall in love with comics. And now I've read so many Batman comics, and Batman Nightfall is still probably in my top five stories. I love it, but um, I'm gonna be way more critical about a Nightfall movie, even compared to something like the Long Halloween movie. Like I love the Long Halloween, but it just doesn't have that same like attachment that Nightfall has. So if they mess up Nightfall, like if they butcher it like they did Hush back in 2019 with the Hush animated movie, I'm gonna be mad. I do have some concerns. First off, the Joker voice. I'm very particular about my Joker voices. There's definitely been some really great Jokers. Of course, Heath Ledger, Mark Hamill, like Cameron Monaghan from Gotham. He was a great Joker. But there have also been some really bad Jokers. Of course, Jared Leto. He's like the worst one. Brent Spiner. You're like Brent Spiner. You're a great actor. Don't get me wrong, but you're not the Joker. Like Brent Spiner's version from Young Justice was really bad. I really hate the Brave and the Bold Joker. I actually just hate Brave and the Bold as a show. I know some people love it, but like it's like Ultimate Spider-Man to me. It's the Ultimate Spider-Man of Batman. And Ultimate Spider-Man is like the worst thing ever. Like that show's dog doo doo poo poo. Like it's awful. But I don't like the Brave and the Bold. I never really watched it all that much. I get a lot of people like it and they think it's fun and campy. I just don't like it. Um, but the Joker voice gives me all I've ever seen is Heath Ledger's Joker, and I'm dialing Heath Ledger up to 11 vibes, which I don't like. I prefer my Joker to have like a more deep voice. I think my Joker should have like an ideal fantasy world of my creation where everything is just how I like it and nobody else gets a say in anything. Joker should have like bass to his voice, right? Like I always, when I read the Joker, I hear a combination of Mark Hamill and Heath Ledger. That's like my ideal Joker voice. I only heard like one clip from the trailer. I can't play it because, well, I could, but I don't really know how to edit things. I'm like really new to this whole YouTube thing. I'm just taking it more casual. Just want to talk about some nerd stuff. Yeah, but I don't like the Joker voice very much. Same with Bane's voice. Whenever I read Bane, I give him a Russian accent because I don't really know how to do as like because I don't know how to do like an accent from like South America because I'm not from South America, as you can probably tell. But I always kind of give him like a weird off-brand Russian accent when I read him, just because like I don't know, I don't want it to be Russian, but I don't think the Bane has enough like South American voice in him. Like he's from Panadura. He should sound like a South American voice. Like he kind of just sounds like an American with like kind of a gravelly voice. I think Batman is good though. I like Batman's voice. Um, but there's a few questions I have. Oh, wait, before I get into those, I just want to mention Tim Drake Robin. I think this is like the first time he's been in an animated movie, aside from like the BTAS, like Legacy of the Batwoman movies, because for some ungodly reason, DC just hates Tim Drake. Like in the DC AMU, it was only Dick Grayson and Damian Wayne. Like they skipped my boy Jason and my boy Tim. Like they just wanted Dick Grayson so he could be Nightwing and like Teen Titans, and then they skipped right to Damian. which like Damien's my least favorite Robin. I know some people like Damien. I think modern Damien is written well and stuff like Batman Father and Son, but like I can't get past Grant Morrison's Damien. He's just such a brat. He's so unlikable. He straight up like murders people. That's not Robin. Like I know League of Assassins, but I didn't like that when they did it for Cassandra Cain because like I don't like Cassandra Cain either. I know a lot of people really love her. I don't like her. I don't like it with Damien, right? But they finally used Tim Drake because I mean Tim Drake was the Robin in Batman Knightfall, and all of this looks really comic accurate. Like they gave Batman his classic blue suit. It's not like the suit that I'm wearing right now in this game, where it's got like the yellow oval. It's like a more dark blue, almost a long Halloween looking suit. But they gave Tim Drake his classic Robin suit, and they gave Nightwing his Bronze Age suit. Yeah, this suit right here with the ponytail. Like, I never liked the Nightwing ponytail. I thought it was kind of weird that every character had to have like a ponytail or a mullet or something like that in the 90s. But like, what can you do? It was the 90s. Um, but yeah, this trilogy, I think the first part is supposed to come out sometime this year, and there's been some questions, and by some questions, I mean me. I have questions, but anyway, I wanted to know, is this DCU canon? Because we know, of course, James Gunn's doing his big DCU plan. And is this like DCU canon? And I have to say no for a few reasons. One, I think it would be really weird if they straight up introduced the DCU Batman in like a straight to HBO Max, like R-rated Batman Knightfall trilogy that most people probably won't even watch. And the second reason I say no is because I actually looked it up, and the actor who's voice acting Batman, um, he plays like Captain Pike in Star Trek: Strange New World, but he's 53, right? And I can't imagine them casting a 53-year-old man to be Batman in the DCU because James Gunn has gone on record saying that if the character is in an animated movie set in the DCU, they will be voiced by the actor that plays them. So, for example, if Superman showed up in an animated show, he would be voiced by David Cornsweet, right? That's just an example. And I can't imagine them casting a 53-year-old to be Batman. Just like for a few reasons. Like, one, David Cornsweet's like 35, right? And like, yeah, I get this Batman is going to be like in year 10 of his career with like Damian Wayne Robin, but even in the comics, he was only like 35 to 37. Even in like the original Grant Morrison run, he wasn't even 40 when he had Damian. And if you go with something like the New 52 condensed timeline, which I don't think works, stretching all that Batman history into like 5 years is not a good idea. But if let's say they went with the New 52 timeline, he'd only be like 32, right? So I can't imagine them casting a 53-year-old because let's say introduced in 2028 because I think we're not getting the Brave and the Bold movie. I'd say because like the Batman Part 2 comes out next year. So let's say that the Brave and the Bold comes out in 2028. That would make Batman 55, right? Like 54, 55. And then let's say he's in the DCU for 10 more years. Like he'll be 65. And I know that's like 60 in like Hollywood, but still, that's too old. That's too old for Batman. I'd imagine they'd cast somebody probably the same age as David Cornsweet, maybe like 2 or 3 years older, to be Batman, right? So I'm gonna say this movie is not DCU canon. Now, yes, they could just say, well, we didn't know who we were gonna cast as DCU Batman, so like this is still canon, but it's just not the same Batman actor, and I could get behind that, but I don't think it will be DCU canon. They might say it's like loose canon, so like maybe the same stuff happened in like the DCU that will happen in this movie, but it won't be like completely canon. Also, I think like I know it's like comic accurate to the 90s, but Nightwing having a ponytail, even if it's not like we ever see him in live action, just the idea of him having a ponytail ever in the DCU is kind of like stupid. Um, but yeah, I don't think it will be DCU canon. I think it will be its own thing, which is probably for the best, right? I mean, they could always say it's DC canon later on, but I really hope it's just its own like self-contained thing, right? Kind of like the Under the Red Hood animated movie, or like the Dark Knight Returns two-part animated movie from like a decade ago, right? That's what I think it should be. But I mean, aside from those few concerns, this movie looks like it looks gas, right? The animation looks incredible. Like it's not like I didn't really like the Tomorrowverse animation. I thought it was kind of cheap looking. But the animation for this movie looks incredible. The character designs for like Two-Face and Joker, Bane looks super menacing. Um, John Paul Valley, both as Azrael and Batman, both his designs, like they absolutely cook. They're incredible. I mean, they're pretty much ripped straight from comics, but they're still incredible. Like that's what I want. I don't want some like over-designed like reinvention of the costume. Just take it from the comics and put it on the screen. It looks best that way, right? I'm so glad we finally see Blue Batman again. I always prefer Blue Batman. I think, Blue Batman, yellows, oval, trunks, like that's Batman right there. I one don't like Batman without trunks. Two, don't like all black Batman. And while black and gray works, I think like blue's better. Blue's better. It's just objectively better. I'm right, you're wrong. That's how it is. But I just have a few more things to say. I'm so hyped that we got Tallyman in this trailer. Like I always thought Tallyman was like the coolest dude. I mean, like yeah, he pretty much has the same exact backstory as like Cletus Cassidy Carnage from Marvel lore, where he's like killed his family when he was young or something. But it's still a really cool backstory. I think Tallyman is so menacing of a design. Um, and I can't wait for this three-part movie. I'll definitely be watching it. It sounds cool. It looks dope. I mean, I just hope they don't butcher it. Also, just one more thing. The main villain of Batman Nightfall is not Bane. I know a lot of people say it's Bane. It's not Bane. It's Jean Paul Valley. Because Bane sticks around for the first arc. Like he breaks Batman's back, and then he gets whooped by Jean Paul Valley. There's Batman. So then, like, he's just not in the last two arcs. But you know who is in every arc? Jean Paul Valley. It's like they took the idea that people still have the stupid idea, like, oh, Batman should kill his rogues. Like, he should be dark and brooding and violent, like, more violent. He should kill his rogues. Like, one, go read Punisher, and two, no, he shouldn't. Like, anybody who thinks that is stupid. You're a stupid dum dum. Like, go read Red Hood, go read Punisher. If you want a villain, like a hero that kills people, then you shouldn't be reading Batman. That's not who Batman is. He'll never kill. I mean, like maybe if he's forced to, like if it's self-defense and it's an accident, but even then, like it would fracture his psyche. Like he would lose his mind if he ever killed somebody. That's just how it is. But anyway, like John Paul Valley, he's the main villain of Nightfall. I really hope they do that and they don't try like I think it would be cooler if Bane stuck around for longer, but I hope they stick to the comics and like Bane gets beaten by John Paul Valley. Maybe he comes back later. I hope not. Also, I hope that they make Dick Grayson Batman for at least a little bit. You can kind of cut out that middleman and just have like Bruce beat John Paul Valley and then come back if you don't want to overstuff the movies. But I think it would be cool to see just a tiny little bit of Dick Grayson as Batman because we've never seen, Dick Grayson as Batman outside of comics, except for like that one Batman Bad Blood animated movie. But he was only Batman for like 5 whole minutes in that movie, and that movie kind of sucked. Actually, all the DC and U Batman movies kind of suck. I liked um the all the voice actors. I thought they were really good, and the animation, fight scenes, but the stories themselves, doo doo butt. They were bad. They were really bad. Probably because most of them centered on Damian Wayne, and he's like the worst character ever. But those were my thoughts on the Batman Nightfall movie. I'll definitely be posting more videos, yapping about more nerd stuff. I'll post another video if they make a second trailer, and I'll definitely post a video after the movie itself comes out. I'll talk about it, and I'll say my thoughts. If you guys like this video, make sure to like, subscribe if you feel like it. I know it's not the most well put together thing, but I am having some fun doing it. And like, if I don't need money, I just want to have fun. So if you appreciate like the content, if you have similar opinions to me, then go ahead and subscribe. I would appreciate it. All right, that's all I've got for today. This was Hobbs Loves Comics. I'm Hobbs, and that's it.